Hello. Today I'm in Hamburg, Germany. Misako and I just spent more than 6 weeks with Catherine Austin Fitz down in Netherlands. And so now we're up here, and then we spent the last couple days over in Amsterdam looking at the dope places again. And we did a live stream last night in Netherlands, which was in Amsterdam, which was, dope smoke everywhere. Our clothes smell bad today from it. So in any case, now we're up in Hamburg, Germany, which is the third biggest harbor in Europe and the largest in Germany. Now, today is the 19th of January, 2026. It's Monday. And I want to talk about my friend, Doc Pete Chambers, who's running for governor in Texas. I'm just getting a message about Doc right now, actually. Let me read that one in a minute. So I'm actually messaging with some of Doc's people right now. Actually, since Doc started running for governor, I haven't talked as much with him as I normally do because he's in the midst of a huge fight. And when a man's in the midst of a huge fight, you clear the channels and you only talk when it's absolutely necessary. In other words, succinct and few and far between communications that are only necessary. Otherwise, you're clogging the channels and taking away his invaluable brain cycles. He needs to stay focused. I understand he's not even getting enough sleep, which I know how Doc works. Now, keep in mind, Doc Chambers is a retired Green Beret doctor. He retired from the military. He's been fighting the death jab in a big way, and it's cost him a lot. And now, how do I know Doc Chambers? Doc and Misako and I were introduced to Doc by a Delta Force officer, as a friend of mine, who was a friend of Doc's as well, introduced us on the border, thinking that we needed to get to know each other and that we might work well together. And he was right, as Delta people tend to be. They tend to have pretty sharp judgment, and we got along very well. In fact, since that time, Doc Chambers and we have been all the way across the entire border of Texas, a lot, not just a little bit. We've been to SpaceX quite a few times together at that border side, and then all the way across Texas, all the way to El Paso and into New Mexico, Colony Ridge together numerous times. I understand Doc was just there again in a helicopter over Colony Ridge. He's watching that. Doc and I have spent a lot of time together. We've driven all the way from Texas to Florida working on these issues. So it's significant time. And I understand people are starting to attack Doc now. The Abbott, Governor Abbott's people are starting to attack Doc, which is good. That means that they're actually getting nervous, right? And some of the things that they're coming out, and which is amazing because Governor Abbott, who does he have on his side? Think about it. China, openly. India, openly. And Israel. Abbott pushes, if you say something bad about bombing Gaza, he's ready to put you in serious trouble. Just look, web search, you'll see what I'm saying. Likewise, he's one of those people that pushes anytime you raise your hand like, hey, we shouldn't be doing that, he'll call that anti-Semitic. And he's threatening people, he wants that to be a criminal endeavor to use freedom of speech in the United States. As you know, the Zionists are trying to take our First Amendment away, and Abbott works for them. Abbott has a huge budget because he works for India, he works for China, and he works for the Zionists. He does not work for Texans, and he does not work for America. I've been across that entire U.S. southern border, from SpaceX all the way to San Diego, and a lot of that time was in Texas, a great deal. A lot of that was with Doc Chambers, a lot of that was with other people, and a lot of that was actually alone, like when I was on the Mexican side for, more than 2 weeks alone, or actually on different trips, but on one trip in particular, because the American side, because of Abbott's people are giving me a hard time on the U.S. side, so I just went across the bridge and stayed on the Mexican side, Piedras Negras, because, Abbott's people were giving me a hard time taking photos on our side. So I literally went to stay on the cartel side because the Texas cartel side under Abbott was giving me a hard time. And so, yeah, you can't make up this stuff. But I've got lots of photos, and I was publishing the same at the time, right? So in any case, let me have a sip of water. We've had a long trip today. We went for 2 days and didn't actually eat much. We were so busy, but we finally got up here. Speaking of which, the Afghan driver that I hired before, we hired again. We spent 7 hours with him today. So he came in from Afghanistan, and now he lives in Netherlands. So anyway, back to the U.S. border. Abbott has left that border open intentionally. I've seen his people. He brags about busing over 100,000 around the United States. Abbott openly brags about that as if that's a good thing, because that's just a psychological operations technique to actually brag about the crime, literally 100,000 plus felonies that you've done. Just brag about it as if it's, something to be proud of. And many people go, well, yeah, great job. I mean, even Texans, like when Abbott was doing this, busing people up to places like Massachusetts, my friends in Texas, many of whom were very smart, very serious people, good people. I love them. But they were falling for the trick. They were falling for the trick and going, look, he's busing them up to New York. He's teaching them a lesson. He's busing them to Massachusetts or wherever. Abbott is doing these things, teaching the other people. He's not teaching them a lesson. He's helping the invasion. Remember, New York and Massachusetts are part of the United States. And when you don't stop the people at the border, the Texas border, which he had the power to do, there were influences there were things that Abbott could do that he never did. He could have closed those. He could have started doing vehicle inspections and that sort of thing, and backing up the traffic. And anyway, we've talked about this many times. Abbott never lifted a finger to close the border. I've been on it too much. I can't be bullshitted on this. I know that border, and I know it better than Abbott does, even though Abbott has spent a lot of time in Texas. When I spent a lot of time on that border, and I spent a lot of time in a lot of places, and I've heard a lot of politicians lie about a lot of things, and Abbott is a big L liar, right? He has left the border open, and he threatens Americans with all sorts of legal trouble if you raise your hand against anything that Israel does, or if you protest bombing Gaza or all the Christians in Gaza, of which there are many, and Muslims in Gaza and other people in Gaza. He doesn't care. He wants that land cleared because he works for the Zionists, and he works for India openly. He works for India, and he works for China openly. This is not hidden at all. It's in plain view. It doesn't take any rearranging of the facts to make these things fit. They're right there in front of you, right? And so Abbott, his people are now going after Doc Chambers, saying that he lives in a trailer behind a brewery. Well, actually, he did for a while. I know, because I used to stay there too, right? Well, guess what? Doc Chambers ain't a drunk. Only rarely, I think I've even seen him drink a beer. I mean, it's just like, I don't know if I've ever seen, I think I've seen him drink a beer or two, but he's not a drinking man. He certainly doesn't smoke. The man is up before daybreak every day out with his dog Joe. Again, I spent a lot of time with Doc when we're traveling. We've traveled all over Texas, all over so many places, and every few hours we're stopping to let Joe, that's his working dog, he's out there playing with the frisbee and wrestling around with him, and he treats Joe like a fellow soldier, right? And so I mean, he's up every morning before sunrise. He's out doing his own exercises and calisthenics. He teaches church and these sorts of things. I've been to many of his sermons. Doc is not, he was living behind a brewery, it's true, and many people have been there and seen how he lives in a trailer. You know why he lives in a trailer? He lives in a trailer because he's been serving this country for decades, and fighting against the death jabs and other things have cost him hugely financially, and he's still fighting. He's not living. I would like to see actually how Abbott is living. I'll guarantee you it's not in a trailer. I'll guarantee it's not sleeping on the ground at the border. I'll guarantee that, the way Doc does. I'll guarantee you that. I've been out there with Doc. All sun goes down, sun comes up. We're still on the border, right? That's Doc Chambers. And so But Abbott, so his people are now saying, Doc doesn't have any money. He lives in a trailer. Actually, he ain't poor, but he ain't rich either. And guess what? He knows the value of gold and silver. And if he ends up being the governor of Texas, I guarantee you he's going to be encouraging everybody how to save is going to be in like gold and silver. I mean, he's a common sense man. And the fact that he's living the way he does should be evidence that he's not taking the money. People have been offering Doc jobs to get him to stop running against Abbott. Abbott has massive money from India and China and the Zionists. Keep in mind, the money that comes from Israel is coming from us and people that don't want to pay tax. Abbott's throwing Texas taxpayer dollars at Israel. Yeah. Do you have enough money that you want to just throw it out to anybody that Abbott deems necessary to get elected? I would love to see Abbott's home. I've been out there on the border when Abbott is on the border and he's doing these press conferences and saying how the border's closed. And just hundreds of meters. I think I was with Doc one time when Abbott was doing this. I know I was with Ann Vandersteel, and I think because I was down there more than once when Abbott was doing this, and I think I was with Doc one time, and Abbott was doing a press conference, National Guard's all there, lights, everything, many media, and just a few hundred meters down, we could see the borders open, like right here where all the cameras are pointed. Massive, there's massive people on the Mexican side acting like they're trying to get over, and just literally a few hundred yards away within eyesight, you can see them crossing the Rio Grande coming into Texas. Yeah, I mean, it's the Truman Show. It's idiocracy. And it's right there, and the media is just totally focused on... Speaking of the media, why isn't Alex Jones standing up for Doc? Seriously. And Steve Bannon, it's time to do it. Stand up for Doc. It's very important. It's very important. Because Abbott is clearly destroying the United States. And you both know that, right? This is very important, extremely important. Abbott is part of that system that's destroying the United States. It's obvious. Now, does Doc live in a trailer park? Yep, he does. I've been there because I've stayed in the same trailer. Not his trailer, but one next to it, right? I've stayed in the same trailer park, right? Not that I live in a trailer park either, but I'm all over the world. And sometimes I'm sleeping on the ground. Sometimes I'm sleeping in a tent. Sometimes I'm sleeping in the jungle. Sometimes I'm sleeping in the desert. And sometimes I'm in a 5-star hotel. I mean, I go everything from 1-star to 5-star. Doc's the same way because we go where the action is, right? I was staying in one 5-star hotel, and journalists were getting on to me for staying in the 5-star hotel, but that's where the action was, and an RPG almost hit me. It hit 3 floors above me, and another one hit down below, right, while I was there, right? They're like, why are you staying in that hotel? It's a 5-star hotel, and I'm like, this is where the action is. There were firefights down there. They got a hotel guy hit with 2 RPGs while I was on the phone, actually. I mean, yeah, I go where the action is. If I'm in a 1-star hotel or whatever, Doc is the exact same way is what I'm getting to. And you can always spot your same and you can spot your opposite. Doc is a man of action. He's action, action, action. He's not thinking about money, money, money. He needs enough money to operate like me. I need money to operate, and that's it. I'm not trying to build a castle on the hill. That's what Abbott is doing. That's what these people are doing who only go suck up to foreign countries and allow Texas and the United States to be invaded. Now, let's see. What are these messages coming in about Doc right now? I got a message, too, asking if Mike Flynn is supporting Doc. Actually, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe is he or is he not? And, another criticism of Doc Chambers is he's never been a politician and has no government leadership experience. Huh? Well, yeah, he's not a politician. That's for sure. But he has no government or leadership experience? Hello. He probably saved thousands of lives pushing back on the death jab. How's that for leadership experience? He's got me talking into a microphone. That's pretty hard to do. Have you ever seen me endorse a politician? Yeah, Doc's not a politician. That's right. He's a soldier. He's fighting for the United States, and but he says he has no government or leadership experience. Well, does serving your life in the military count as government experience? I think so. And being a Green Beret doctor count as leadership experience? Some would argue yes, especially all that time he spent in combat. And another criticism is he did not vote in all the primaries and general elections over the last 11 to 15 years. Well, Doc has been a little bit distracted by things like wars, stuff like that. Actually, Los Angeles Times brought that up when they were doing an article about me about not voting in something, midterm or something like that. I can't remember. And yeah, I didn't vote. I actually tried to, but I was actually in Iraq. So I think you can find that article. I think they mentioned it in the article actually, but I had a hard time. Anyway, whatever. I'm not going to defend myself. I've done enough. Let's see. Oh, this is another message that was sent to me. This one is about Abbott, not about Doc. Today, Governor Abbott met with the U.S. ambassador to NATO and U.S. ambassadors to Czech Republic, the Netherlands, and Poland. They discussed common interests, including strengthening transatlantic security and defense innovation. Read more. Yada, yada. Anyway, Abbott. Listen. I've been talking about Abbott for years, right? And so I'm not going against Abbott because Doc's running against him. Doc's going against Abbott because what I say about Abbott is true. And Doc and I talked about it so many times. And Doc's like, well, what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about it? And then Doc said one day, I'm just going to run for governor because that's what a soldier would do. That's what a Green Beret would do. And I was like, okay. And then many people were saying, Doc, you need to run for governor, and that's what he's doing. He's a man like us. He's a common man. Do you want somebody that lives on a mansion that takes money from India and China and the Zionist / Israel? You want to support that guy who wants to strangle our freedom of speech and leave the border, not only leave the borders open, but literally, openly, actively help people invade our country? Doc is running because of that. Doc doesn't want to run for governor. He knows what kind of problems that's going to bring. Can't bring anything good for him because it's going to be nothing but, very, very hectic. And if he's doing very well, he understands the danger, right? He's an American deeply spiritual. I mean, anybody that knows Doc knows that. I've been with him a lot, and he's constantly just out doing good deed. The fact that I'm even supporting him tells you what I think about him. So that's it. And if there's any comments, please leave them below. And I'll send this to Doc. I don't like to bother him, but he's going to want to see any comments. I'm pretty sure. I know Doc pretty well. And again, the reason I'm leaving the channels open and I'm not contacting him very much, they know how close Doc and I work together, and so people are asking me, what does Doc think about this? What does Doc think about that? And I'm like, actually, you have to ask him, and I'm not talking with him every day like I often do, because he is running for governor, and he is a soldier, and he's he's got to stay focused. And when somebody's in battle, you don't keep knocking on their shoulder, right? You gotta like let them go, and just support them. Like when they need something, ammo, here you go. Water, here you go. And watch this corner. I got that one. I got this. Right? That's the way it's got to be. And so Doc needs support. He needs all the support he can get. And so listen to him. Follow him on X. Follow him wherever he's at. Send out the links to him, because remember, Abbott is killing the United States. He's killing Texas. Doc he's the man you've been waiting for. He's the man that actually said, okay, I'm jumping in the arena. And there he goes. My friend, Doc Chambers. And again, let me let you go. I'm not even going to ask for support. Send it to Doc Chambers, please. And I mean, send it to links about his stuff, please, about whatever Doc's doing, wherever he's going, wherever he's going to be meeting people and that sort of thing. Follow him on X because he announces all that stuff. And so, and I'll put his X link below. All right. Thank y'all. And we're in Hamburg. Misako and I are. We're doing a lot of things. We're going to have some very, very interesting meetings. And this is all related to actually stuff that Doc's doing, or what affects Americans and our friends and allies, and what affects good versus evil. And that's a fight, a front line that Doc lives on. All right, y'all have a good night.